Hello everyone and welcome to PC Retro Tech. So in this week's video we're going to be building a 486 in this fantastic old 486 case that I purchased. This is what I call a big box 486. So it has a very wide and very high box. It's about 2.5 times the width of the floppy drives, and it's taller than the width of a floppy drive. I'm talking about the 5.25 inch drive there. So this is a big box one, and if you look at old ads for 486 machines in magazine articles and so on, 486s had this sort of impressive appearance. You know, they're always filmed in a way to sort of make them look majestic. And part of that, I realized after quite some thought, is because of the size, the sheer size of the machines. They were really large, and many of the 486s that you find, you know, on online auction websites, for example, are in small cases. They're kind of compact, and I guess these are popular with people if they're going to be shipping about the country and so on, because the postage costs are low, and so it's actually quite hard to get these big box 486s. And in fact, I've been waiting for one of these to come up that I could actually afford to buy for such a long time now. I've forgotten how long it is. It's literally years. I mean, a few have come up, but they've just gone at such ridiculously high prices. So finally this one came up, and as you can see, it doesn't look like it's in perfect condition at the moment. It's very yellowed. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to basically do some UV exposure with some chemicals to try and get the colour back to the original colour of this machine and really restore it to what it should have looked like when it was purchased. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've had the front cover in the chemicals to try and treat it to make it whiter for about 2 days now. Unfortunately I only had about 1 day of really good sunlight. It has made a little bit of difference, I think. It's really hard to tell, but this region here you can see where there was some kind of sticker on here, and you can still see the difference in colour between the original and the yellow. And especially on the top of this here, it's really yellow on top, and if you compare that with the underside, which is really white in colour, where there hasn't been so much UV exposure, I presume, or I'm not sure if it's UV or something else that these get exposed to. But yeah, it hasn't really been very successful so far, so I'm going to try a different idea, and that is to put some well, I guess it's a drain cleaner, but its main ingredient in this case is some form of bleach. And I'm not sure if that's going to be a really great idea or a really bad idea, but we'll soon find out. So the next thing I've got to do is clean this cover, and I'm just going to use a bit of isopropyl alcohol for this and give it a bit of a scrub. It's already been cleaned a little bit by the previous owner, but it's still got some marks on it, and we're going to try and get some of those off. So I gave up trying to clean that front cover that was on here with drain cleaner. Unfortunately, all that happened, it was just starting to smell like drain cleaner, and it wasn't coming cleaner at all. So I've actually gone back to the original chemicals, and they require light, of which there isn't very much today. It's actually a great day for filming. Every now and again the sun comes through the clouds, but we'll see what happens. So in the meantime, let's take a look at the PC and what's in it. So it's a 486 DX266. And it just has a standard 3.5 and a 5.25 inch floppy, of course, which is nice. It has a very interesting rail system here for the drives in the 5.25 inch bay, and I felt for sure that I would have the right rails for this. I mean, I have a large collection of rails of different kinds, but none of them fit in this machine, which is really amazing. I might have some that fit in this machine in another machine, and I'll have to see whether that's a machine I really want to keep intact or whether I can cannibalize it for parts. So at the moment the original owner has put in a retaining clip that they've made themselves, and it's quite functional, it's very secure and solid, but I would prefer it to look original. So there's also another interesting 3.5-inch bay sitting under the power supply here, which I find quite weird, especially given that this machine already has a 3.5-inch bay exactly where you'd expect one to be, and a hard drive in another 3.5-inch bay at the back of the machine there. So the hard drive itself is about 8 gigabytes, and I think this is just too large. For this era, I think maybe a gigabyte might be more reasonable, but I'll look that up later and see what people were selling in machines of this era. So there are a few minor problems with the machine. The most noticeable one when you turn it on is the fan on the CPU makes a lot of noise, so that will need to be replaced, and I believe I have a spare somewhere. When I first got the machine and opened it up, I thought, oh gosh, you know, the owner has been really lazy and just left this piece of RAM lying on its side here. But this is actually the design. There are 2 upright ones and one laying on its side. There's actually an additional slot underneath. And I guess the idea is to prevent interference with cards that are full length going across here. So that's a nice feature, I think. You can see that the motherboard is a UMC motherboard with model UC4915-A, A10 revision 1.1. And I think that's nothing terribly special. It's a socket 3 board. Another kind of weird thing about this is the speaker system. So there's a very tiny speaker in this. It's much smaller than you would normally find in a PC of this era, and it's a bit tinny sounding, to be honest. But the other weird thing about that is that the piezo here is just as loud as the speaker, and when the speaker is not active or disconnected, the piezo still operates, so there's no way to turn the sound off completely. So if you're playing games at night, you're going to wake your neighbours up. So I found that a little bit odd, and actually, to be honest, a bit annoying. The video card seems to have some kind of bodge on the back of it. It is a Visa local bus machine, so it has the extra brown slot here, which means that it should be quite fast. But interestingly, I don't think that this is actually a very fast machine. You can see some damage on the cable as well. That's another problem with this machine. That'll have to be replaced. But this graphics card is really an interesting one. It's a V7 Vega, and I think it's just a VGA card. I will have to look that up, but I'm now a little bit torn. I was going to originally put a Sanglabs ET6000 in this, which is highly sought after and performs extremely well. They're quite expensive, and I do have one that I could stick in here. But I'm now wondering whether I should leave in the V7 Vega just for rareness. I think this is quite an interesting card. So I don't know what to do about that precisely, but there's also no sound card in the machine at the moment. That will of course have to be rectified, and there's no CD-ROM, and it's presuming I can get a CD-ROM into this with that rail system the way it is. Then I might want to put one of those in as well. But otherwise I think it's a bog standard 486 for its time, and we're going to upgrade it, I think, to a DX4100 because I want a little bit of a higher spec machine, and I'm really glad that I'm going to be able to put a DX4100 in one of these big box machines. I think it'll make a really nice PC in the end. So the machine does seem to boot up, and it counts 2 megabytes of RAM. The original owner told me there should be some software on here, including some games. So it's a 486DX266, and it looks like it has 256 kilobytes of cache, which is good. So there should be no personal files on here, so we can take a look and see what's actually installed. Take a bit of a sticky beak. And it looks like we have MS Money and MS Works and Windows, as you might expect. I don't know what WEP or WSketch are, so we'll have to investigate those. NC is probably Norton Commander. But the one we're interested in right at the moment is Spiele, which is the German word for games. So it looks like it has 4D sports. Don't know what BL is. Civ might be civilization. Colonize, Dune 2, Dino, don't know what that is. Prince is probably Prince of Persia. SC2 and Syndicate. So I think we're going to take a look at these and see what they look like. I guess they'll all be in German, but I'm pretty sure we can still appreciate the graphics and the sound. So Windows seems to be there and it does start up. Unfortunately, most of the applications here just say that something's invalid or missing. So we can't run anything. There's QBasic, that does run, but there's no basic programs to run. I noticed there's an antivirus here. I wonder if that's up to date. So I think the only interesting thing here is Auto Sketch, and it just seems to be a drawing program, although it's a pretty good one. I've not seen this particular one before. So when I draw an ellipse here, the weird thing is it doesn't look at all like an ellipse. It's got square sides, but when you draw it, then it becomes rounded. So I find those sorts of things quite interesting, but it is just a standard drawing program. Other than this, I don't think there's very much on this machine that's going to keep us very occupied. So let's move on to some of the other applications and games. So this is Norton Commander, for anyone who has a bit of a retro rush seeing this. I was an XG Goldman myself rather than Norton Commander, but this is what it looks like, and it seems to be some kind of terminate and stay resident program, and it's mouse controlled, so you can click on directories and change directories, copy and move files, of course. So the other thing is, if you change directories, then it actually just updates the screen. So it's kind of a neat little application. It's a little bit hard to drive as well from this machine, since it's a German machine with an English keyboard, so there's no backslash key. But anyway, I'm not going to spend any time on this because that's not what we're really here for. So that 4D sports directory turned out to be the game Stunts, and oh, it looks like it's been cracked. So yeah, this is a Mindscape game, and oh, from the makers of Test Drive and the Duel, so DSi software. Alright, so let's drive. What's the word in the manual? Blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure that was PC Retro. That'll do. Yeah, that seems to have been the right one. Okay, let's drive. Yeah, so actually the background there is pretty detailed. That looks really nice, but the road itself is really primitive. I guess this is what you expect from the 486 era from driving a car. I'm pretty sure when I go over here I'm probably going to crash. Yeah, whoa, actually I made it around there, that's surprising. Yeah, it's very hard to control. I imagine this was one of those games that you probably needed a joystick or something to really get benefit out of, and even then you might not have actually been able to drive it very well. You hear the sound effects are very primitive. Whoa! So yeah, I think the main aim of this game is to spin you around a lot and probably irritate and frustrate you a bit. So I don't think I'm going to drive this very much. Let's just go around this corner and see what's around the corner. So I do remember playing this back in the day, but I think there were quite a lot of variations on this theme. I think this wasn't the only one. Things just appear out of nowhere. So let's see if we can make it over this jump, and then that'll be it, I think, for this game. Oh yeah, we survived. So the BL directory was empty, unfortunately, but there was Civilization as we thought, and we have a choice of VJ, EJ, looks like even Tandy 1000. I'm going to select IBM sound, PC speaker presumably, and I'll select mouse and keyboard since the keyboard is not very useful on this machine. So this is a very famous game. I have heard of it. Unfortunately I haven't played it, so I apologise to all the Civilization players out there. I do know that this is a very well known game. I'm going to skip the introduction sequence here because I don't think very much happens, and I'll start a new game. And yeah, the graphics look quite impressive actually, very well drawn. I'd say it's really artistic. So I don't think this is the game, I think this is just an introductory sequence to explain the history of it all. And I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but that to me looks like a planet in space. And I'm really not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be learning about these things. I can't quite read the German that fast, unfortunately. But it looks like there are lots of volcanoes and lava and lightning going on this very small planet. And I guess that they have done something to their planet they shouldn't have. And, oh, there's some kind of weird plants growing on this one here. I guess there's some kind of plant. And it says organisms, cells and amoebas, so I don't know what that's about. Anyway, it looks like this sequence goes on for quite some time, so I'm going to skip this and go into the game and see what that's like. And so, yeah, we have some medieval looking characters here, so I apparently have a choice. I'll choose King and 3 civilizations. Roman, Caesar. So the music's quite reminiscent of Defender of the Crown to me, very similar, and it looks like a tile-based game. As I said, I don't know how to play the game because I have never played Civilization, but I'm familiar with the genre and I just wanted to start it up and have a little bit of a look. So let's move on to the next game. So the Colonize directory contains a couple of things we can run. There's Col Demo, which is just this 3D MPS Labs logo rotating around. That's all it really is. The game itself is Colo, and of course I'm from Australia originally, so I'm going to select Australian, and so New World Start, and I'll just click somewhere random, and that's me, England. I'll be, of course, Walter Raleigh. Some introductory spiel. Yeah, wow, so the graphics are really detailed and very, very impressive in my opinion. Oh wow, yeah, this is really well done. So this is another Sid Meier game. I've actually never heard of it, which is surprising. It looks like this beginning sequence goes quite slow. Looks like Governor Walter Raleigh is going on an expedition. So, yeah, I guess we have to get past these initial screens, and then it looks like another tile-based game. I guess I just sail around here. It looks like a sea monster to me, and I have found a new world, so I can explore the new world. Okay, so I think I get to name my land or something rather. Anyway, as for the other game, I don't know how to play this, I never have, so we'll leave it there. But it looks like another tile-based game, but this time based in a water world where you get to explore and colonize new lands. So the next one is Dune 2, and this is actually a game that I remember playing, but I don't think I played it for very long, so I'm not sure how much I'll be able to remember at all. So, yeah, I do remember these houses of our Atreides, Ordos and Harkonnen. Those are also the names that are given in English. So it looks like it introduces the house, and then you get to choose it. So the graphics in this are also very impressive. Extremely well drawn by artists. Let's skip some of the text, and again it's another kind of tile-based game, and I guess that we get to walk around, and so we have a little Ordos Raider trike which we can drive around. So I don't know if there's anything to find around here. I have not scouted about before. Oh, there's a little alien there. Let's attack the little alien and see what happens. I think it's trying to say something about it being a friendly. I'm not sure. Maybe I should be attacking the red ones instead. I'm not sure. Oh well, they're all dead. Okay, so that's the end of the game. So the next game is Diner, and this is one I'm not familiar with. It looks pretty impressive. So let's start a game. And wow, yeah, the graphics look really interesting. This could be a pretty interesting game, I think. So I don't know what that creature is that's flying above. It looks like some kind of bat. and looks like there's a guy in a spacesuit and some kind of scientist on the left, and I think the bat is supposed to be flying off to the castle. So maybe that's us being taken off to the castle, round one. Oh yeah, this looks great. Let's see how this works out. It's game one's game start. Yeah, this doesn't look quite as exciting as I was expecting. It looks like a Pac-Man clone in some sense. So I just have to figure out how to move around. Yeah, okay, so I don't know. I guess the idea is you have to move these blocks somehow. I'm not exactly sure how you do that. Oh, and he seems to sometimes die. Alright, so I don't know how to play this game, but it looks very much like a sort of thing you'd find in a Windows Entertainment Pack, therefore not very exciting. So I think we'll leave this one here. So just as I was exiting Dino, this little demo came up, and I think you can see a little bit more clearly how it's designed to be played. It looks like you can set little things in columns and rows here, and when they go off you get the ability to sort of clear out obstacles, and eventually I guess the idea is to get rid of the other players. So yeah, it looks like it could be a little bit of fun, I guess. So the next one here is Prince of Persia, the first version, and I'm pretty sure this needs no introduction. It's a very famous game written by Jordan Mechner. If you haven't read his book on this, that's also actually available online. And yeah, it's a really very well written game. The animation in this is really smooth, and it looks like it runs pretty well on this machine, in fact. Because this is so well known and there are so many demos of this online, I'm not going to play this now, but if you haven't played this game, yeah, it's really worth it. Very, very fun. So that SC2000 was SimCity 2000, and I guess this is another game that I've never actually really spent a lot of time playing. I have seen it before, of course, and it is basically just like all of the SimCity games. You can, set up factories and towns. You can find places to put things, and yeah, it's a simulation of a city. This has been done to death online, so there are many other very good videos on SimCity, so I won't play this very long, but I guess it's not common to see this very old version of the game running on a 486, so hopefully that gives somebody a nice retro feeling when they see this running. The final game on here was Syndicate, and first I couldn't figure out how to actually start the game because I couldn't get into the directory, then I realised, of course, I can just use Norton Commander. There was a full stop in the directory. So it did come up there and say that there wasn't enough memory to run the game, but then it just seems to go ahead and actually run it anyway. And the graphics are quite impressive at the start here, so I'll just begin a new mission. And it looks like I'm playing Germany, of course. I don't know that Australia is quite that shape, but we'll let them get away with that. So I'll skip through the information at the beginning here until it starts loading the game. And then, yeah, the graphics are really very impressive. I think there's just something to be said for the graphics in this era. That artists really had to draw by hand all of the graphics. They were really artworks, not just simulations, using graphics cards and graphics libraries and so on. And I don't want to take anything away from modern artists. I think that they are probably overworked, if anything, when they're designing games, but there's just a real appeal to games from this era. I'm not sure that the artificial intelligence has quite got this right. Oh no, he's actually going to figure out that he's got to go across the little bridge here. So yeah, this is really a very impressive set of graphics here, and I think it gives you a real sense of the retro feel of a 486. It's also running very smoothly. on this game, even though it's a DX266, and I can imagine, having had a lot of fun back in the day with this. So I'm going to break this video here into a two-parter. The reason for that is that the clouds have come across today and there's just been almost no sunlight, so I'm not getting that front panel clean at all with the chemicals that I'm using there. So I want to do that next week so that it actually looks good on camera. And so that's a little bit of an introduction to the machine itself and the software that's on it. And next week we'll swap the parts out and put in the DX4100, and I'll show you the other 486s that I have, one of which I'll be taking the parts out of, and I'll show you why that is next time. So if you're interested in that and would like to see this machine upgraded, and then if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. Also put the notification bell on, otherwise you won't get notified when the videos are uploaded. If you like this video, give it a like below, and thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the later video. Bye.